Welcome to the Dragon's Den. I am your venerable host, Orochi, and today we will be talking about the only thing that really matters. Dragons. Specifically, today we are going over the ancestry feats for dragons in the Battlezoo Ancestry Dragons for Pathfinder 2. And we'll start at the very top here. Additional unarmed attack. This just unlocks one of your heritage's specific attacks, and you get this for free if you take Ravager, which if you're going to be a melee dragon, you probably want to do. So it's very rare that you're going to have this as an ancestry feat. It's sort of there as a filler to be given through Draconic Ravager. So with that in mind, it also has backwards compatibility built into most of these things, whereas if you get these feats from another source, either Draconic Ravager or Dragon Mage or whatever, you get to automatically retrain the feats that you've unlocked. Or if you get an upgrade for it, you can retrain the original one, which is super great. But on its own, this isn't really worth a whole lot since Draconic Ravager ups your damage die for all of your attacks. So if you actually want these attacks to be worth anything, you're going to get Ravager anyway, and then it's going to give you them for free. The only reason you would take this is if you are a dragon that specifically has more than one additional unarmed attack that you can unlock. And you can somehow find a use for it, because you get Bite and you get Claw for free, and then Draconic Ravager gives you one extra attack. Like, you don't really need another one. You've already got plenty. And they're sort of niche attacks that you really have to build around and have the options available to you. So then we go down to Change Shape, which is, in the grand scheme of the balance of Pathfinder 2, this ability is definitely broken. It gives you something that you generally don't get at low levels unless it is specifically built into your race's power budget. Like Anati get this ability for free, that they can turn into a human form. But that's kind of already built into like their core chassis. Whereas this is just a first level feat you can pick up to be able to assume humanoid form. Which is fantastic that any dragon can get this. So if you're worried that, you're going into a game, you want to play your dragon character, but you're kind of unsure if people would be okay for it, you say, is like, hey, I can look human like 99% of the time. Or through the whole campaign, maybe. Maybe nobody even discovers I'm a dragon. Like, that would sort of defeat the purpose to me, but it's a thing you could do. And that's great. It opens up so many possibilities and will ease the worries of a lot of GMs that they won't be able to get you to fit in with whatever they're running. So this is probably one of the best feats at this level, just because of the amount of ease of use it has for everything you're doing. Draconic Cantrip just gives you more cantrips. It just gives you... how many does it give? A cantrip. Gives you one cantrip from your innate spellcasting, which is alright. Like, there's plenty of other ancestries who have this sort of option, so it's in line with other things. But personally, I think cantrips are hot garbage. Like, if you're a spellcaster and you're above level 5 and you're using a cantrip, then things have gone terribly wrong and you're not actually doing much of anything. Like, unless you can reliably electric arc 2 targets every turn, then your damage is so low that you might as well not even be in the party at that point. Like, if you have a barbarian or a fighter in your group, then you no longer serve a purpose for damage, because they will just be doing multiple times the amount of damage you are. But, you know, pick up prestidigitation and stuff, because you always need those. Or detect magic. Like, any dragon can just pick up detect magic with this, pretty much. That's excellent. It's always good to be able to do that. Then we move down to Draconic Resistance. This gives you half your level to your damage type, that your associated dragon's damage type. A lot of things have this sort of ability, so it's alright. It's great that this is given to you for free on several heritages. Ones that I think they couldn't really figure out a unique niche ability to give them, so they kind of just gave them resistance, which is like, it's alright. Like, half level to a damage type is pretty good. It might have felt better to get a unique ability, but it's not bad, especially if you get fire. If you get fire, or I don't know, fire is just the best to have resistance to, because that's the most common damage type. I don't even know what the second most common damage type is, because it's so far down the line. But there's another feat that keys off from this later on that is absolute ace. And we'll get there eventually. Dragon Breath. Can't be a dragon without having your breath weapon. It sucks you have to spend resources to unlock it, but here you go, you get a breath weapon. The problem is that all breath weapons from all classes and all heritages and all abilities everywhere are based around being as effective as a cantrip. And as we just went over, I believe cantrips are hot garbage. So having your default breath weapon just be 30-foot line, 15-foot cone, 5-foot burst, depending on your type, and just doing 2d4 damage at level 1. Which I think that's even twice as much damage as the Kobold Breath does. But it scales the same way. 1 extra d4 every other level. Actually, you don't get a damage boost with this one at 3rd level. So you front load the damage with the breath on this, but it's got a 10-minute cooldown. But then once you hit 3rd level, it's got the 1d4 rounds, but the damage doesn't go up until 5th level. So it's slightly front-loaded for the first 4 levels, but then after that, basically scales like a cantrip. An extra d4 every spell level. Maxing out at 10d4, which is useless damage. At 19th level, 40 maximum damage. That's like a Marshal's regular hit. And that's the maximum damage you can do. And things are more than likely going to resist your damage. So you're going to be doing half that. You're going to be doing half a Marshal's hit to between 1 and like 3 targets at the most. So that's real bad. It can get boosted, though. Unlike almost every other option for breath weapons in the game, this one can get boosted, and more than one way, which is really good. But I want to go and point out that I believe that there should have been made a difference in the damage scaling between the three different types. Because a cone is your default spray everyone down with your damage, which is fine. But then you have the burst, which is like, hey, you've got some range with this. It's basically fireball, without any of the whack-ass range and stuff that it has. It's like you can just place the damage wherever the frig you want it. That is so much utility to the power that a cone doesn't have. Because it's just like, oh, you're surrounded by friendlies? That doesn't matter. You're just popping it 30 feet away from you, so that doesn't matter. It's like, oh, there's an enemy in front of you, a friendly behind them, and then an enemy behind that. It's like, oh, well, everything else, you'd have to hit a friendly, but you can still hit the guy in the back with your burst. That's really good. So I think even for that, the damage is pretty good. But then we get to the outlier, a line. Lines are garbage. Like, if you are playing and you are being a math nerd and going, it is fundamentally impossible for me to not be able to draw a line between two objects that have nothing between them. That is math. You can always draw a line between two objects on the same plane with nothing in between them. You can always do that. And so extrapolate that so that you're one of those points, and then there's two enemies. The vast majority of times, it shouldn't be that difficult to line up two enemies to you, because you can choose the different points of your square that you are in to shoot this beam off from, so you can angle it in a decently wide array of, angles. Because of the way that Pathfinder already quantifies shooting lines at different directions, it will more than likely be impossible for you to hit two targets with a line. Like, most of the time, it will be impossible because of the way that they've already put down, this is how lines work when they aren't going straight. And so a line is basically single target, because the number of times you're going to be able to hit multiple targets with it is extremely small. And the whole point of the breath weapon being low damage is because it's a spell, and spells are supposed to be good at hitting multiple targets. So if you take away the thing that it's supposed to be good at, hitting multiple targets, then it should do more damage. Like, the line should have some sort of additional special rule where you double its damage, or maybe just increase it by 50%, but then you split that damage up between the number of targets it hits. That way, if you just hit a single target, it will do more damage. Because what's more iconic than grabbing hold of something and just vomiting your breath weapon right into their frickin' face to melt them in your grasp? Like, that's brutality right there, and you should be able to fulfill that fantasy, because that is probably going to be one of the best ways to use a line, or be like sniping with it at twice the range that a cone can go, and just hitting something at a distance, but it's still single target, so something should have buffed it for that. Because otherwise, I believe every dragon that has a line breath weapon is automatically weaker than every other dragon that has a burst or a cone. Because it's just harder to use your breath weapon properly. And that is unfortunate. We got Dragon Lore, which just makes you trained in Arcana. And I believe Intimidation. The two things dragons are supposedly good for, Arcana and Intimidation, despite the fact that the default rules for dragonism in Pathfinder 2 is Arcana, and dragons tend to inspire fear, so it's Intimidation. But so many dragons have primal magic or occult magic or divine magic that this doesn't really make much sense. And they even expanded on that with sorcerers because sorcerers now have divine dragon blood. Which is, unless you know exactly what you're trying to build, a really bad choice. Because the divine spell list it's rough. Like, if all you want to do is sit there buffing people and that's it, then that's what Divine's good for, but you could just be a bard and have Divine focus cantrips while also casting spells that do things. We go down to Empower Scales. There's a few different feats like this that make it so that when you're not wearing armor, your natural scales act as armor. And I think this is the only one that performs better than the thing it's trying to be. Because this basically is, you use your unarmored modifier, your unarmed proficiency. Eventually, anyway. But it gives you a +1 item bonus right off the bat. So if you are a pure caster who can't wear any freaking armor anyway, then this will be good for you when you hit level 7, because then you start using your unarmed proficiency for it. So it's still useless for you for the first 6 levels, but after that, it's basically you're wearing the lightest of light armor, but it's still counting as unarmored for you, which for a caster is amazing because casters have a hard time getting armor, getting their AC to even a decent, minimum viable amount to not get your face punched in. So this is, if you're going to get above 7th level, then this is a really good feat. And it also says that you can apply potency runes and all that stuff. You treat your scales as armor, so you can inscribe runes on it and stuff, which is, not only is that cool and thematic that you don't wear armor, you just use your scales. You can also carve runes into yourself so that you can just be like, make huge runes that people can see and make them like colored and stuff, and that can just add extra aesthetic to your character. It's awesome. We go down to Empower Wings. This does not do what you think it does. It has nothing to do with flying whatsoever. It's basically functions like the first flying feat that kobolds have. Only it's not required for the flying feat you get later, which is kind of weird. But this just makes it so that you can jump better and get additional jump height and jump distance, all that kind of stuff that the Kobold one gives you, but it also makes it so that you can arrest a fall even though you don't have a flying speed, which is pretty amazing because that's sort of like gives you, depending upon how a GM is going to rule that's basically like free feather fall, free Cat's Grace, the one that makes it so you can fall and not take damage. Like that's pretty awesome because you just wait until you almost hit the ground and then you use your reaction to arrest a fall, and then you just fall the rest of that distance. So you go, it's like, oh, I'm going to wait until I'm 10 feet above the ground, and then I'm going to flare my wings out to stop myself. It's like, that's super cool. Horde Holler! You've carried around enough of your horde from place to place that it's become much easier for you to lift and carry more than your size and strength would indicate. You gain the trained proficiency in athletics, or trained in a different skill of your choice if you already have training in athletics. You gain the Hefty Holler skill feat. It's a skill training and a feat, which, like, athletics is generally, if you aren't trained in athletics, then expect to die, in my opinion. Because everything you do in an adventure game should require athletics. Because you're adventuring. Adventuring is an athletic activity. It's like you're tromping through the jungle, you're climbing things, you're going over boulders, you're going over rough terrain, you're like, so many things should require, like, even just the base level of athletics that, you know, if you took your typical or maybe atypical, you know, 60-pound weakling spellcasting mage who's tripping over their own freaking robes and stuff. It's like, you don't have training in athletics, you're going to fall off a rock and damage yourself. You're going to trip over everything you find out there because you can't even get up like a flight of stairs. I know that sounds like a little bit extreme, but just think of all the things you have to do when you're out adventuring, and every time there's an obstacle or every time there's, you know, dangerous terrain, like, athletics is the go-to to get around this stuff. And if you don't have it, then you are going to need some other way to get around these things, because they should be fairly common if you're out in the wilderness adventuring. So, getting athletics is good. Hefty Holler, like, you can carry more stuff. That's good until you get, like, a bag of holding, and then it doesn't really matter at all. So, I would say this is a decent feat to start with, but then, you know, once you get to level 5 or 7 and get a bag of holding in your party, you don't even need to own one yourself. Just have one in your party somewhere, and then you can probably retrain out of this. And then you'll have put some ranks into athletics, hopefully by then, at least one train, and you'll be good to go. Because for all the athletic stuff you need in the game, unless it is like ultra deadly on level kind of thing, all you would need is your level to a bonus, and as you're leveling up, that'll automatically scale up above most common problems. So I'm going to go down to sturdy scales. This makes your scales into medium armor, and they use your medium armor proficiency, which is cool, but mechanically bad. Like, instead of paying money and wearing armor, you can spend a very valuable ancestry feat on it. Now, this also means that, your armor will automatically become comfy, because then you can sleep in it and not have any negatives. But I think the number of times where people ever bother to make a distinction for that and have that ever affect anybody is pretty rare, to be caught without your armor on. Like, it's super cool to be a monk and not have to worry about it, but most of the time it's not even going to come up in your campaign at all. So that's not really a huge benefit. And there's no real upside to this, other than you're not really wearing armor. Your scales are that, which, to me, most of the dragons that I want to play as are going to not want to wear armor. For two reasons. I believe that if a dragon is going to wear armor, then they should be better in that armor than everyone else, because they also still have their natural armor. Like, that's how armor works, is you layer it. Like, you take full plate, and full plate isn't just giant plate fucking mail on you. It's a gambeson under chain mail under plate mail. So when you're wearing plate mail, you're actually wearing 3 different armors, because they all work together to build up that full level of defense. And the same should be true for dragons. Like, if you're wearing armor, then it should be more beneficial to you than others. And I understand that that's, above the power curve that they want to make, but there's a handful of things in Pathfinder 2 that, because of the way they balance things, is like completely and unequivocally immersion destroying to me. And that's kind of one of the reasons I stopped playing 5e, is because there was too many of these just immersion destroying things, and it's really annoying to see it pop up in this kind of way, where it's like it just needs a little bit of something extra in it. But there's nothing. So this is going to be our first heritage-specific feat. This one is only useful for paradise dragons or toadstool dragons. You channel the collaborative nature of heaven if you're a paradise dragon, or your communal life in large colonies if you're a toadstool dragon, to more easily assist your allies. You gain a +4 circumstance bonus to checks to aid, which isn't a really good first level feat. Humans get the option for something similar to this, but that's also a +4 bonus, which is enormous. That is just a bonkers, like, +4 is the highest bonus you will ever get for something. And you could probably take out all the things in the entire system ever written so far that give a +4 bonus, and you would probably have like 4 things. Like, I think it's that rare, because I'm struggling to even think of something else that gives like a +4. So that's pretty amazing. But aid at low levels does not give you a lot of return on investment, because to aid you have to set it up, so you have to spend an action and a reaction to give somebody this bonus. And the bonus at low levels is going to be like a +1. So you're spending an action and a reaction to give somebody, hopefully, a +1. Which isn't fantastic. I mean, it's not nothing, of course, but aid, it becomes much better unless your GM decides that they don't want it to, because the standard difficulty for aid is 20. So by the time you hit level 7, that's going to be a pretty easy DC to hit. And then aid also has a steadily growing critical success function where if you crit, you give the ally a +2. Unless you're a master in that thing that they are trying to do, that you're assisting, then you can give them a +3. Or if you're legendary in that thing you're trying to assist, you can give them a +4. So by the time you hit 14th level, if you have this feat, you're getting a +4 to have a chance to give somebody a +4, that is fantastic. If you can make it work properly, that is an amazing thing to do. Like, if you're making a Paradise Dragon or a Toadstool Dragon, pick this feat up and then be a swashbuckler and pick up, what is it? One for all for one. There's spells that have those names now, so I forget what the swashbuckler ability is, but it allows you to use your performance or diplomacy. I don't remember, but it allows you to use one of your class features, your class skills that gives you panache to aid somebody. So you can use that aid for everything. So you'll get legendary in it eventually. So with this, you'd get a +4 to every attempt to aid somebody to give them a +4 in anything they want to do, including attacks. Now think about that. You could be able to fairly reliably, with having a +4 to your aid check, that gives you a very, very good chance on critting to be able to give somebody a +4 to hit, which will fairly easily make them hit most anything they want to hit and give them a decent chance at critting. Like, if you want to make a support character, that's definitely the kind of thing you can pick up. This is a very cool ability if you know how to build around it. Then we go to Dream Sight, only for Dream Dragons and Nightmare Dragons. You get to see into people's dreams. That's pretty cool, and you can get information from it. And specifically with Nightmare Dragons, you can use that against them to better intimidate them, which is super thematic to being a nightmare artist. I like this a lot, but realistically, how often are you going to be able to catch somebody sleeping to be able to look into their dreams? Now, the caveat to that, of course, is you read this whole thing, and there's no, like, instructions on how to use it. Like, literally, there's no range, there's no line of sight. Like, if you have a GM who is fairly open-minded, then you can just say that, yeah, I am a dream or nightmare dragon. I can literally still look through the dreamscape, the plane of dreams, and pick out any person I want there and look into their dreams. Like, every night, if you know you're going to be fighting some person or some creature, like, you just pick them out and say, oh yeah, I'm going to find this person's dreams, and then go into them and look at it. And then you automatically get the plus to intimidate. Like, depending upon how lenient your GM wants to be, that's amazing. And as a Dream Dragon, you know, you could... It doesn't really give you a lot of, like, crunchy stuff because it just allows dream dragons to sense motive. But I'm sure you could pick up stuff to, like, have a spa day where you can psychoanalyze somebody and help them through their, like, mental problems and stuff, because you get to see their dreams, the things that their brain works on while their consciousness isn't working. So for dream dragons, I think this is more of a thematic ability where nightmare dragons can actually get real use out of this, because intimidation is like one of the best skills in the game. Like, both in and out of combat. It's just so good. Then we go down to exaggerate strength. Only for Vermilion dragons and only once per day. And I'm just going to put here, once per day abilities in Pathfinder 2 are generally trash. Generally complete trash. Because of their desire to make everything balanced so that every combat you get into can be challenging, you can't have swingy one-time abilities. But on the other hand, that's all that spells are. So, that entire idea just doesn't work. I think that's one of a big failure on their part to incorporate things properly. I think daily abilities should be much stronger. Every class should have, like a daily power. You watch people play 5e, and that's one of the coolest things that goes on is when somebody uses their class abilities that reset on a long rest. Those are daily abilities. That's literally what they are. Straight out of 4th edition. I know a lot of people don't like hearing stuff for 4th edition, but that's what long rest abilities are. That's what once a day abilities are. They're your daily friggin' abilities. And they should be powerful. They weren't that powerful in 4th edition. Some of them are pretty damn good in 5th edition, and they're bad in Pathfinder 2, which is unfortunate. But you can use this one as a reaction whenever you are about to attempt a saving throw against an incapacitation effect. Huh. That makes it so that you might be able to get an auto success on an incapacitation, because the way incapacitation abilities works is if you are higher level than that ability, you get an automatic bump in success. And this reaction makes it so that it treats you as if you were 2 levels higher. So even +2 boss enemies will have a hard time using incapacitation on you. Unless that is one of their strongest on-level ability. Because it's affecting incapacitation stuff, which is usually some of the strongest abilities in the game, I don't think this is a terrible feat, but I do think everything that has a trigger of, oh, something's about to happen and you don't know the result, get a +1, because there are a bunch of those abilities. I hate that stuff so much, because it's just like, well, a +1 only has a 1 in 20 chance of working, and you're going to spend a reaction or an action or whatever on something where you don't even know, you only have a 1 in 20 chance of it even working. That's terrible. But this one's not that bad. I don't think you're going to get much use out of it, though, because there's not going to be a lot of incapacitation effects that are done by creatures your level or 1 higher to make it so you automatically get the success bump on it. But it's still it's a modestly interesting ability. And you could find use for it. It could save your life. But then, if you use this ability for your once a day and then you roll a critical success anyway, then it's like, oh, well, I just wasted my once a day for nothing. I prefer to give my players like a lot of leeway on that sort of stuff because I want them to feel when they're using their abilities, especially reactions, that, it's like, boom, it did something, or you don't use it. Would rather not use something because either you don't need to because you rolled well anyway, or you rolled so bad that it wouldn't have an effect, instead of using the ability and then, having 19 out of 20 times it would be useless. Because that just feels terrible. Next we got Far Traveler, only for cerulean dragons. You can travel especially far overland, even through adverse conditions. When traveling long distances overland, you reduce the movement penalty to your travel speed from difficult terrain or greater difficult terrain by half. Though this has no effect on blah 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 blah. The first part is pretty garbage. Like, I find it hard to imagine that there's going to be areas that are like, oh, this entire 4 miles is difficult terrain. Like, that's going to be pretty rare unless you're going like, oh, hey, we're going to cross a mountain. It's like, well, yeah, a mountain's going to be difficult terrain because it takes a long time to get over mountains. But, like, other than that, like, I just don't see a lot of use for that. Because I just don't think there's going to be a lot of difficult terrain that spans immense swaths of territory. And then it also gives... No. The rest of it's just giving you examples. So I wouldn't say that's a good ability. Like, if you play with a GM who uses difficult... Because this means that if you're in a party and you're traversing difficult terrain, that means when you get into combat, the entire combat map is going to be difficult terrain for however many miles it takes you to get over this stuff. And that's just kind of bonkers. I don't feel like that's good gameplay. Just to go, oh, hey, we decided to go somewhere stupid, so now we can't even move while we get into combat. It's like, that's not fun. Read the Threads. Time Dragon Heritage. Once per hour. It's a hell of a lot better than once per day. You are about to roll initiative. You read the flow of time in order to react before anyone else. You roll Dimension of Time lore for initiative with a +2 circumstance bonus. I'm fairly certain that Dimension of Time lore, specifically for time dragons, scales up automatically. So this is a really cool ability that once per hour, you can roll a skill that automatically scales up as your initiative with a +2 bonus. Because even if you have like a scout on your team, somebody who's scouting, that only gives you a +1 circumstance bonus. But if you take improved initiative, that's like a +2 circumstance bonus. So none of that stuff is going to stack. Which is actually funny because I just realized I think my entire group's been running that wrong for a long while. Because we have somebody who scouts, but most of us also have improved initiative. I might have to look into that. I don't think those all work together because all of that's going to be circumstance bonuses. Yuck. So this is a cool ability, and depending on how often you get, like the frequency of combats you get into, if you tend to pace yourself so that you can use this like every combat, then you can take this instead of taking improved initiative. And it'll scale up to legendary, I'm fairly sure, which for a lot of classes you don't. Like, especially casters get screwed on initiative. Even as a wisdom caster, you don't have you're on par with marshals. Every other caster that's not wisdom, you're probably going to be below marshals, which is not where you want to be. If you want to throw out, spell bursts and AoE spells that could hit your allies, you want to go first. And casters have a hard time with that. So this is a really cool ability. Reptile Speaker for black, brass, and bronze dragons. It's like you can talk to animals. You can use diplomacy on animals instead of nature, and actually talk to them and get answers. So that's really cool. It's super thematic for, if you want. What it does is thematic to what it does. I don't see why those 3 dragon types get it. I don't think any of them have a particularly fond... black dragons sort of do. I don't think the rest really have much affinity for other reptiles, but this is a cool ability. It's probably not going to help you a whole lot, but if you have a reptile animal companion, then this is super good. That'll definitely help you out. Because then, technically, you can give them commands without using anything with the audible. What's the trait? Audio. You'd be able to command your pet without speaking. So you could do it silently, even in combat, which is, it's not a small thing. You could definitely find ways to make good use out of that. Ride the High. Indigo dragon only, once a day. That's a bad start. You're under the effects of beneficial emotional effect for the duration of at least 2 rounds, or a beneficial emotional effect from a bardic composition cantrip with a duration of 1 round, and the duration would end. Jeez. You get to extend the duration on yourself for 1 round. Wow. As a once-a-day ability, this is pretty terrible. I mean, it's a free action. So getting an additional round out of a buff for free once a day, it's like, it's not garbage. But your bard is probably going to re-up the cantrip every round anyway. So it would have to be some other beneficial emotional effect. Yeah, those are pretty slim. I'd say if this was once an hour, it'd be a pretty good ability. Or if it scaled up at all, it'd be a good ability. But otherwise, it's all right because it's a free action, but it's not great. Amphibian Ease. Prerequisites: a dragon heritage that grants you a 10-foot swim speed or a 20-foot swim speed with a reduced land speed. I love that they made, everything about this is cool. Because they made it so that aquatic dragons can choose to have either a 25 move speed or a 25 swim speed. And then their other corresponding speed will be 10. Which is fantastic. And then you can take this to buff it up. This makes them both 25, which is fantastic. That's super cool. Makes you a fast swimmer. That's great, especially for an aquatic species. You're probably not going into water a lot, but when you do, it's nice to be really good at it. Because swimming, you normally have to roll athletics, and then you move 5 or 10 feet on a crit. That's real bad. But 25 feet with no check involved, that's pretty good. And then if you buff your speed up anyway, that can be really nice. Animal shape, Bliss or Havoc Dragon. This allows you to basically do the transformation, except instead of getting a human form, you turn into an animal form. It's nifty, but look, we're into level 5 abilities here. The turn into human one is level 1. And it allows you to do so much, because then you could equip gear and just play as a humanoid character the whole campaign. This turns you into an animal, specifically with pest form. Pest form has no attacks. It has no health. It's you're a fly on the wall. You're a little baby mouse. Like, a stiff breeze will kill you, and there's nothing you can do about it. So this is a interesting ability, but it's not good. It's definitely not good. Like, if you plan on doing scouting and stuff, it's pretty good. I think the only thing that makes this powerful is that it's just an action. There's nothing else to it. Like, a druid can't even do this as often as a Bliss or Havoc Dragon. Because a dragon could use this 3 times in a round. Whereas a druid has to spend a focus point or a spell slot every time they want to do it. So if you're playing in a campaign where you might need to sneak into places and observe things, then this could be a really useful ability. This is all utility, no force in it. There's no power in it. It's all pure utility. But considering what other people get, it's not nothing, that's for sure. It's going to be one of those things where it's going to be either useless, or you're going to be one of those people who finds a way to use it and get a lot of mileage out of it, or just somebody who uses it all the time and just pretends to be a pet of somebody else until you turn back into a dragon and scare the bejesus out of some people. Anyway, Animal Speaker. You have to have Reptile Speaker. Reptiles might be your favorites, but that doesn't mean they're the only animals with whom you converse. You can speak to all animals, not just animals that are reptiles. And you get a +1 to make an impression on them. This is 2 feats. This is a feat chain. And, like, it's cool, but man, you're giving up a lot of potential power just to have this cool utility ability. But it's definitely not bad. You can speak with all animals, and you get a +1. Like, again, if you're playing in a campaign where you're doing a lot of, city adventuring kind of stuff, or sleuthing or whatever, this would be good stuff. Appraising Sight, Occult Dragon only. Your sight establishes the inner nature of objects around you, making it easier to appraise them. You get +1 circumstance to recall knowledge about an item or identify magic. And you can cast Object Reading as an innate occult spell once per day. Once a day? You didn't even give it as a cantrip? That's unfortunate. And a level 5 feat only for a +1 to recall knowledge. I don't know. I gotta say, that's not good. That's not real good. No, sir, I don't like it. Burning Poison. You have to have Dragon Breath and be a Vermilion Dragon. You can choose not to ignite the spice of your breath weapon in order to expose your foes to the burning sensation from the chemical irritant in the spice. When you choose to do so, instead of fire damage, your breath deals poison damage. And makes it a fortitude save. This is real dumb. Like, I'm going to say poison resist and immunity is right up there with fire. Like, it's probably one of the most resisted kind of things in the game. Less now than in previous editions, probably. But, like, poison isn't a great damage type. So, finding something that's immune or highly resistant to fire so that you want to swap to poison, it's going to be difficult. And then you're swapping it from generally one of the lowest saves a lot of creatures can have to the highest save like 95% creatures have. That is just bad. You're trading bad for bad. I don't like that at all. If you had treated the spice as a mind-affecting thing, like a lot of chromatic dragons have a secondary breath weapon that they can get that does like paralysis and stuff. If Vermilion dragons had that and had it be will saves instead, then this would be amazingly good. Even if it only did like slow 1 for 1 round or something, that would be super great. But trading fire damage for poison, trading reflex for fortitude, those are not good trades. Even if you need them because it's immune to fire, it's still not a good trade. Like, do anything else. Take anything else. Here's a good one. Draconic Pride. Once an hour. You are unbeatable, insurmountable, monumental, and more than a mere mortal, so nothing can defeat you. Or at least that's what you tell yourself. I love this. Kobolds can pick this up too. It's just dragon overconfidence. Except for this is better than the Kobold version. Because this reduces your frightened condition by 1, and for 1 minute, whenever you are frightened, reduce the frightened condition value by 1. However, breaking your arrogance leads to catastrophic way of anxiety. If you critically fail a saving throw against a fear effect while Draconic Pride is active, the effect ends immediately and increase the frightened condition you gained from the critical failure by 1. Instead of decreasing it. So that'll often put you at like Frightened 3. Because critical failing usually, just from Demoralize, will put you at Frightened 2. So this will put you at Frightened 3, which is nobody wants to be there, ever. So this is a really cool thing. It's different because the Kobold one is an always-on ability that makes it so you can either crit save or crit fail. You can't normal anything. This is different in that it automatically reduces frightened but doesn't affect anything else. So this is a decent ability. Like, if you're fighting a lot of things that use frighten, then this is pretty good. Especially if you have a good will save, which, you know, everyone does, pretty much. Most marshals do. Most casters do. So yeah, it's pretty good. Draconic Verve. This just gives you a +1 bonus to paralyzed and sleep. And reduces the duration when you get those. Like, paralysis reduction is pretty good. But, like, how many things are going to paralyze you? It's like, this is an ability that's pretty damn good when you need it. But, like, how often are you going to need it? Like, man, there's so few things that reliably do paralyze that I don't think it's really worth much. So, cool ability, but a little too niche for any use. Dragon Scent, you get sent out to 30 feet. Scent is really, really, really good. So, this is good to have. Just good. Dragon's Endurance. Once per day. Ugh. You briefly surge your magic through you as a protective force, preventing harm before it can reach you for a short time. You gain temporary hit points equal to twice your level that last for 1 round. Hot garbage. Once a day, twice your level like, the twice your level part is good. For 1 round, that's pretty terrible. And once a day, that is awful. Like, this is an emergency health shield once a day. So, can you find use for it? Sure. But, oof. Like, it's not even a reaction. If it was a reaction, like a shield block kind of thing, then that would be cool. But this is you use this thing, and then, smart enemies will just be like, oh, well, it's only going to last a round, so we'll hit something else this round. There's so many things that could invalidate your once-a-day use of this that I'm just like, nope. If you're the only tank in your group, if you're the only marshal in your group, and you are the face tank where you're taking all the damage, then yeah, this could be useful to you. But otherwise, it's a hard pass for me. That one's for regular stuff, not dragons. Forest Shape. Gonna be a forest dragon. You call upon the power of the forest within you in order to transform into a tree. It's tree shape. Like the other polymorph abilities, the fact that you can just do this whenever the hell you want saves it from being trash. But, like, how often do you want to be a tree? But you can do it anytime you want, so it has uses. Not a whole lot. You can't move while in a tree, so it's less useful than animal shape. But since forest dragons tend to be the type that ambush people, it's like, yeah, you turn into a tree, you wait for the enemy to come up to you, and then boom, transform back. It could have some uses, but I don't think it's very great. It's thematic, but not really that effective, because you'd still have to use 2 actions to turn back. So, ambushing somebody where you only have 1 action to use something on them, not great. But you can hide. Ghostbane Breath. You have to have dragon breath and be either a crypt dragon or an umble dragon. This just makes it so that you can damage undead. You're incorporeal undead with your breath weapon. which is pretty cool. And then undead take 1 additional damage die of damage from your dragon breath, which is it's all right. That's pretty good. Both crypt dragons and umbral dragons are specifically designed. They have ghost touch automatically, so they're good at killing undead, and this just goes along with that flavor. So this is just good. If you're gonna be playing Abomination Volts, be a crypt dragon or an umbral dragon, and pick this up at some point. Just wreck some undead. Have fun with that. Hellfire. Infernal Dragon. When facing overly moralizing or self-righteous foes, you can deploy Hellfire to take them down a peg. Whenever you use an ability that does damage dependent upon your type, instead of dealing fire damage, you can choose to deal half fire and half evil. It says this is especially useful against creatures like Celestials, with a weakness to evil damage. Anything that gives you alignment damage is trash. Absolute trash. Like, I get it that Hellfire is only for Infernal Dragons, which are supposed to be, outsider dragons that are very specifically tied to an alignment. But player options that give you the option to do alignment damage are generally horrible. And ones that let you do evil damage are even worse, because 85% of the things that you're going to fight are going to be evil. So they're immune to evil damage. Unless you're specifically playing in a backwards campaign where you're the bad guys and everybody else is definitely a good guy, this is a real bad option. And even if you're fighting a lot of good guys, it still just does the same amount of damage as the fire would, unless they have... you can only do half and half, so even if they have any fire resist, they're still resisting your stuff. It's just not good. Especially for a level 5 feat. It's just not good. Horde Warder! You've learned... this just gives you Alarm as a spell you can cast once a day. Alarm's range is garbage, so that makes this feat garbage. If you could cast Alarm with a 100-foot radius, because I think it's 20. Alarm has a 20-foot radius, which is unless the entrance to your horde's place is real small and you only have one, then this is kind of useless. You should have escape routes out of where you hide your horde so that you don't get trapped there. But that also makes it so that, other things might come in those exits, so you want to alarm multiple places. So this is just bad. I really don't like it. It's trying to be thematic, but it's leaning on something that's really weak. So, no thank you. Insightful Jest for Harlequins. You gain trained in diplomacy or become trained in another skill. This is a level 5 feat that's giving you trained in diplomacy. That's bad. If you wanted to focus on diplomacy, you would have picked it up at level 1. You gain Bon Mot, which is actually really freaking good. Unlike normal, you can use Bon Mot against an ally, exchanging in witty combat banter that pokes fun of your ally's flaws. If you do so and roll a critical success, you get a success instead. If an ally uses a skill action to remove the penalty from your Bon Mot and their skill check result meets or exceeds the standard DC for their level, their successful introspection grants them a +2 status potion to perception checks and will saves for 1 minute. Holy crap. That is a lot of words for saying that you can do a massive chain of using Bon Mot on a friendly to have them then counter that effect to then give themselves a bonus for a minute. It's a status bonus, which is nice. For perception, that's mediocre. Will saves, that's good. Like, this is a good ability, but this is a good feat. Like, just the status bonus plus 2 to perception and wills is pretty good in and of itself. They become immune for a day, though, which sucks. But getting Bon Mot for free, getting trained in diplomacy, which then might screw up all the ways you're leveling up your feats unless you plan ahead quite a bit. Like, this isn't bad at all, but you really need to know what you're building to be able to get the most out of this. And your allies have to be willing to take a negative of you basically attacking them with a debuff in order to hopefully succeed and get a buff out of it. Like, it's a little sketchy there, but when it works all together in your favor, it's pretty good. Leshy Roots for toadstools or other Leshy dragons that have yet to be made. You are closer to your Leshy Roots than other Leshy dragons. You gain the Adopted Ancestry General feat for Leshy, which generally breaks the rules of you can't do that. And you also gain a first level Leshy feat. So, that's 2 feats for the price of 1. You're getting Adopted Ancestry, and then being able to get that Ancestry in an uncommon, which is against the rules to do, and also getting a first level feat. So that's pretty good. If there's something that you definitely want from Leshy, this is pretty damn good. Like, this would allow a toadstool dragon to get a ranged seed attack as a natural attack. Like, it's mentioned on a lot of different abilities that you can use this with an unarmed attack or an unarmed ranged natural attack. There are almost no natural attacks. Like, Seed Throw from Leshy is like the only ranged natural attack in the game, I believe. So having a dragon be able to pick that up is pretty damn cool. You like that in and of itself could easily define an entire character build. So that's real good. Magma Swim for Magma Dragons. Who would have thunk? You are protected from Magma and you can swim through it like a fish, even though that's unrealistic in every way whatsoever. You get swim speed equal to your land speed, which is pretty damn good. But you can only swim through magma. Or molten lava. And your resistance to fire becomes 40 plus 5 times your level against ambient environmental damage from lava or magma. So you can swim in it, and it also doesn't kill you when you do so. That's good. They could have just made you immune to lava damage. Why not do that? It's like, hey guys, I can swim in this toxic stuff that damages me. It's like, well, maybe don't do that, idiot. I mean, unless you absolutely have to. This is close to being decent. But I don't know, it just seems weird that, oh, you take damage from swimming in lava when at low levels. That's just weird. And how often are you gonna run into magma? That's the big problem here. If you're in a campaign where you can use this a bunch, it's a pretty good ability. If not, it's not. And your party can't follow you in lava, so it's just, this is not all that great. This is a lot of abilities that are like thematically, hey, I can do this. That's cool, but the rest of your party can't. And so that kind of makes it so that you can't either, because you can't leave your party behind. Because traveling by yourself, generally a death sentence. It's suicide in Pathfinder 2 a lot of the time. Like, unless your GM is custom building their own stuff, and so, you know, if you decide to go off on your own and they're just going to throw a single monster at you or a couple low, like -4 things at you, then yeah, you could do that. But if you're trying to get use out of this and out of an AP or something, it's like, nope, you're gonna get yourself killed. Next, we have Mist Vision, Cloud or Silver Dragon. You automatically succeed to hit concealed stuff that is concealed by clouds, fog, or mist. You get a +2 bonus to perception checks on DCs to seek creatures hidden or undetected using such things that you can normally see through. It's alright. The problem here is you're not going to find clouds, fogs, and mist all that often unless you make them yourself. And here's one of the catastrophic problems with everything that has to do with this stuff throughout all of Pathfinder 2. Whenever you're hiding in some sort of gas, whether it be mist or smoke or like stinking clouds or anything like that, everything inside it is concealed and everything outside of it is concealed to that thing. So it's purely a defensive thing to hide in this stuff, because it prevents you. It's a debuff to yourself as well. So none of it's great. It doesn't really help you all that much. And so it's not nearly as cool as it could otherwise be. But, you know, if you're casting Mist Bank or Fog Cloud or any that kind of stuff, you can see through it. You'll screw over your teammates, but hey, whatever, I guess. Planner Infusion. You have to be a planner dragon, which is all of those. Now, this is an interesting ability because it makes it so you can have a 20-foot radius that you change to be more like the plane that you come from. But you have to sit in that spot for at least 2 hours. So it's supposed to be like, you know, when you make camp for the night, you change the area of your campground to be more like the plane you come from. And you can also set one where your horde is, so that, you know, your horde and basically your home, if you're going to live there, feels more like the plane that you come from, which is super cool. And it does give you some mechanical benefits, but they are real hard to use because 20-foot radius is real small. Like really teeny tiny, just... like that'll maybe cover your campground But then enemies only get the negative if they're inside it. So they already have to be at point blank range to get the negative on them. And that's what I don't like about it. If it was a larger radius, then it would be cool. But it's thematic to, make places where you're staying for a bit of an extended period to be more like the place where you come from. That's cool. Here is some flight. Not really, though. It's a bonus that you'll be able to use later, unless you're casting spells. You might, or might not, be able to fly on your own yet. But either way, you've been restoring the pathways that make you better flyer. So when you do fly, you do so faster and more effectively. When you have a fly speed, you get a +5 status bonus to your fly speed and +1 circumstance to acrobatics checks to maneuver. If you're master in acrobatics, your speed becomes +10, and if you're legendary, it becomes +15. This is problematic because this is a status bonus. Everybody who has a boost to speed gets a frickin' status bonus. Monks get a status bonus, swashbucklers get a status bonus, barbarians get a status bonus. If you're a caster and you cast Longstrider, that's a status bonus. So this isn't good. Because if you're any of those things that can get a status bonus in other ways, that's already part of your plan on how to boost up your speed because it affects all your speeds. Whereas this is only fly speed, and it only becomes better than those other better than the weakest of those other options when you get legendary acrobatics. So this is bad. If it was a circumstance bonus instead of status, or if it was maybe twice that status bonus, then it would be good. But as is, like, you have to be somebody who wants to max out acrobatics and not be of a class that can get a status bonus elsewhere. Not a lot of those. Psychic Resilience for Astral Dragons. You get a +1 bonus to saves against mental effects. And you get the Resilient Mind Free action, which is once a day, roll a success on a saving throw against a mental effect. You bolster your mind to get a crit. This is good. It's once a day, which sucks, but this makes it so like, oh, hey, you just succeeded on a mental effect against you. Do you want to crit succeed instead? Hell yes. Hell yes. Why not? It doesn't say what kind of an action it is, though. It has to be a reaction because it's not happening on your turn. But yeah, that's cool. You know? If the big bad boss is about to nuke you with a mental effect and you're one of the rare classes, that's probably the big thing that makes this kind of a trash feat, is like most classes get will saves up to master and get a bump in success automatically. But if you're not, this patches that hole up for you. So, yeah. I don't even actually know if there's a single class that would actually be able to use that. I don't know what everything has for resistance auto successes. But most of them have will bumps. So, this might actually be completely useless. Oh, well, not at that level. I'll put that there. A lot of those classes probably don't get that ability until like the mid to late teens. So you can do it earlier. So that's not nothing. Quenching Breath. Cerulean or Sea Dragon. Your breath floods an area with so much water that it instantly quenches normal flames with ease. All non-magical fires within the area of your breath are extinguished. This is so lacking. Why doesn't it make a counteract check to try and do magical fires? Even if you got like a -2 levels to it or something. That would at least be something cool. Like a dragon breathing out water over stuff and not putting something out just feels anticlimactic. Rumor Monger as an Amber Dragon. This is a cool thing if you're doing, like socio-political kind of games. So you can make a rumor about somebody and it spreads with like wildfire. Like no other ability can do what this does. There are things that allow you to do similar, but this one is just much better than all the other means. So this is cool if you're playing that dragon in the campaign where that would be useful. Which no AP is that, so yeah. Second Chance. Time Dragon, once per day. You fail a saving throw. After a fatal mistake, you turn back time to allow yourself to try again. Reroll the effect, taking the second result. This is just a free hero point, which you should be getting like 2 or 3 hero points per session. So I'm not sure this is really worth much of anything. Like, it's nice that the triggers you fail. Actually, no, it's not. That trigger sucks. That trigger sucks hard because you cannot use this on a critical fail, which is the time when you'd want to use it. So using this ability, you roll a failure, and then you might roll a critical failure, and then you have to take the crit failure. That sucks. So I don't like that. Do not like that ability. Nope. It's one of the reasons why my group has used different rules for hero points, because rolling something and then re-rolling and getting worse sucks so bad. Smoke Vision for red and underworld dragons. You can see through smoke just like silver and clouds can see through mist. I would say this is probably more useful if you have a GM that's like, oh yeah, you can start fires. Because if your fireball and your fire breath and your wall of fire and stuff isn't making smoke because it's burning stuff, then this is probably going to be useless all the time forever. Then we get Snow Vision, which is, poor white dragons are just getting crapped on. This is pretty terrible. Like, if you're a white dragon and you know the whole campaign is going to be in the north, like if you're playing Quest for the Frozen Flame and you're a white dragon, no, you're not going to be a white dragon because no white dragon would be a part of that. But if your GM somehow allows that or does something similar, then sure, that could be useful. Because, when you're thinking about heavy snowfall being everywhere because you're that far up north, then people would be able to be concealed by snow all the time. Like, there would be cover or the ability to hide in snow everywhere. So, that could be cool. So, basically, you're either going to take this because you're going to get lots of use out of it, or you're never going to take it because you would never use it. Then we get Soaring Leap. Once per day. Flap your wings and make a mighty leap. Jump 30 feet in any direction. That's It's the jump spell. Once per day. Garbage. Like literally, it's one action. That's the jump spell. Even if you have a better than 30-foot move speed or jumping ability because you actually have athletics, that's still the jump spell. Like, I'm sure somebody could find a use for this on a rogue or something that doesn't have athletics and doesn't have spellcasting, but generally you're never going to need any of that. Sound mimicry for blue dragons. You can generate all manner of unusual sounds. While the sounds aren't distinct enough to mimic voices or otherwise produce speech, you can create almost any other kind of sound. Get a +4 on your deception against perception DCs. That's amazing bonus, as we've already gone. That's really cool. Like, there's so much use for that. That I'd say that's definitely, if you're a blue dragon and you want to be a conniving, manipulating motherfucker, then take this. There's so much stuff that you can do with that. Weren't you at that party? You have to be expert in society and an indigo dragon. It's basically just, socio-political stuff. It shortens the amount of time it takes for you to find out stuff at new places, which is cool. So if you travel a lot and you need to get lay of the land and new information a lot, then get more out of your society checks, then yeah, that's pretty good. Eternal Stride, once a day. Using a vestige of the Lux Eternal Ritual, you tap into your future potential, allowing you to move in the blink of an eye. You gain 2 actions. To use. Okay, this is our first 9th level feat, and this basically allows you to cast Time Jump once a day. That's pretty good. Time Jump is a stupidly good spell because it doesn't provoke attacks of opportunity because it's one action, and you get 2 moves out of it, which don't provoke attacks of opportunity. So, that's great. I say the thing that ruins this is there's a lot of really good 9th level feats to pick up here. Like this. Antipodal Duality. You must have either the Draconic Ravager dedication or the Dragon Mage dedication. And this automatically gives you the one you don't have, which is pretty good to get a dedication feat at an off level without taking one of your class feats. That's pretty damn good. Astral Eyes for Astral Dragons. You can imbue your eyes with the thought forms from the astral plane, allowing you to temporarily see the invisible. Once per hour, you can cast See Invisibility as an occult spell. During the last 1 minute instead of 10. Once per day, you can cast See Invisibility in this way. It has a full 10-minute duration. So you get See Invisibility at will for short duration. Well, once per hour, you get shortened See Invisibility, and then once a day, you can cast See Invisibility proper. That's all right. But again, it's fighting against some really good competition here. Channeled wings once a day. You channel your magical power into your rings, fully restoring your flight. You gain a fly speed equal to your speed for 10 minutes. Which, as we all know from everything you build in Pathfinder 2, will be required for actual full flight. And then we come upon the granddaddy. Deep breath. You have to have dragon breath. You can take a deep breath and double the range and double the damage. Well, double the number of dice you roll for damage for your breath weapon. This is fantastic. This puts your breath weapon into actual mediocre spell damage levels. But then you can't use deep breath again for 1d4 times 10 minutes. So it's bad. It's got a long cooldown. 10 to 40 minutes. It's rough. Like 10 minutes on its own would have been fine, but whatever. But that's really good. Buffs that damage up. But then we have dive and exhale. You have to have dragon breath, and you can only do it once a day. You launch briefly into the air and dive, releasing your breath around you as you do. You fly 15 feet straight up into the air, then fly in a straight line to an empty space of your choice on the ground within 60 feet. You basically dive bomb, which is super cool. And then you breathe around the spot where you land, dealing twice as many dice of damage as normal to all creatures within a 10-foot emanation of the space where you land. That is super, super cool. It's only once a day, which sucks, whereas deep breath you can use far more often, but this is dive and explode in an AoE. That is good. I'm not sure it's good enough to ever take, especially over deep breath. But maybe if nothing catches your eye for later levels. Divine Lightning for Sky Dragons. And you have to be good or worship a deity who grants a positive font. Channel positive power through your attacks, making them more effective against fiends and undead. If you are good, your dragon breath and other electricity abilities, dependent upon your heritage associated damage type, deal good damage to fiends if it is more beneficial to you. So basically, this makes it so that you can turn your electrical damage into positive and good damage to do more damage or full damage to things that would normally resist that kind of stuff. Makes it so you can kill evil, which is super good because you're good against evil. Like, that's super thematic. So, if you're going to run into a lot of those things, very cool ability. If you're not going to run into those things, kind of a big waste of a 9th level feat. Draconic Haste. You can cast Haste once a day on yourself. That's pretty trash. Compared to what this is up against, that's pretty bad. Like, if you want to cast Haste, just take any spell casting dedication. If you can if you have Arcane or Primal, then take Dragon Mage and it'll give you the ability to use Wands of Haste. Draconic Hubris. You have to have Draconic Pride. And then once per hour, when you are about to attempt a saving throw that has a critical failure effect that is different from the failure effect, your self-image has reached dizzying heights leading to believe that nothing can harm you. Roll the saving throw twice and take the better result. That's alright. I don't like the you are about to, but it's a free action, so it doesn't matter. That gets rid of, like, the whole thing I hate about wasting your reaction getting nothing. If this wasn't a 9th level feat, I would say this is pretty good. But its competition is real heavy. Dragon's Instincts. Once per day, you roll initiative using Perception. Your Draconic Instincts alert you to danger, making sure you are prepared to react first. Roll initiative twice and take the higher result. You get luck on initiative once a day. That's pretty trash. Since a lot of times you won't know if you need it. Dragon's Tenacity. This is some bonkers stuff right here. First off, you increase your hit points by your level. That is bonkers. It's toughness. Like, it's a free toughness on top of toughness. The only other way to get something like this that I can think of off the top of my head is lizard folk get this at level 17. It's a rider on top of another ability, but let us continue. During your daily preparations, you gain temporary hit points equal to half your level. So you just get free health cushion on top of extra health at level 9. This is a fantastic ability for anyone. You're a friggin' squishy caster, pick this up. Be less squishy. You're a tank, pick this up. Tank harder. Like, this is just a good feat for everybody. It sucks that there's so many good 9th level feats. I want them. I want multiple 9th level feats. Earthbound. You are keenly aware of your own limitations with flight without magic to keep your dense form aloft, but these magical insights make it both particularly easy and particularly satisfying to bring others low. You can cast Earthbind once per day, which is alright. Like, Earthbind's a decent spell. But your competition here is so thick that I can't really say that this is really good. On its own, it's decent, but, you know. Eccentric Infusion. You have to have Planar Infusion and be a Tumult Dragon. Your Planar Infusions disrupt magical energies, occasionally causing bizarre and unexpected effects instead of the expected results of a spell. Anytime a spellcaster casts a spell from a slot inside your infusion, which is almost never going to happen, they must attempt a DC 3 flat check. So that's a 10% chance for this to ever work. On a failure, instead of the spell's normal effect, they produce a Wellspring Surge. Whew. Wow. Like, that flat DC is awful. Like, absolute garbage. But if you're thinking about this, if you're defending your horde against somebody, then this is... If that DC was at least 5, then this might be vaguely useful against thwarting spellcasters, but as it is, I would say no. It's not worth anything. Especially as a level 9. Energized Jaws. Draconic Heritage with an associated damage type that deals energy damage, mental damage, or poison damage. When you bite something, you do persistent damage on a crit. 1d4 persistent damage on a crit. That is pretty terrible, actually. Like, that sounds super cool, but it's pretty bad. I mean, with so many amazing choices at this level, if this was a level 5 feat, I'd be like, yeah, that's persistent damage. That's good stuff. Because it's persistent damage of any type. And there's decent ways to get persistent fire damage and mental damage and a couple other things. So, if you've got a damage type other than that, then you can stack up. You can find ways to make a character build that would stack up a decent amount of different persistent damages. But since it's level 9, I gotta go with nah. It's not worth it. Ghost Stride. For etheric dragons, you become just barely ethereal as you move, allowing you to move through your foe's space with ease. You stride twice during the movement, you can move through a foe's space without needing to tumble through. Huh. It sucks that you have to use 2 actions for this, but otherwise, that's pretty cool. I think the worst thing about this is that it's a 9th level feat. Because otherwise, that's good. I just like it. Because if your acrobatics sucks, then tumble through could be extremely difficult for you. And failing that tends to put you in a place you don't want to be. Gouging Claws. For Rift Dragons. When your claws dig deep, they leave vicious bleeding wounds. On a critical hit with your claw unarmed attack, you deal 1d4 precision bleed damage. There we go. There's some more crit persistent damage. Bleed's fairly, well, I'm not going to say fairly easy to get, but it's one of the easier damage types for certain classes to get, so this is a little bit more restrictive. Horde Deposit. Spend 10 minutes and you can put something into your horde of 3 bulk or less. From wherever you are, you just teleport something into your horde. That is super cool. But it's a 9th level feat. That sucks. Because this is such a cool thematic ability. Like, you go on a heist or something, you grab the MacGuffin, then you're like, guys, give me 10 minutes. Whoop! Then it's gone. And then you no longer have the MacGuffin. It is safe in your horde. That's so cool. But it's got such stiff competition being 9th level. Also, if you wanted to be like a Kender kind of dragon where you just pickpocket from people and then you spend a little bit of time every now and then just whoop, that's gone. Once a day, you're just searching for like the one thing you want to steal today and put in your horde. That might actually be a cool way to attempt to break the conventions of money per level by stealing stuff and just popping it into your horde. That's a cool idea. Ice Climb. White dragons getting hosed on again because they're only good in the snow. They suck everywhere else. You can climb ice. You get a climb speed. You don't risk falling prone. It's thematic, but unless you are like super hamming up the white dragon in the snow kind of thing, it's not great. Like, white dragons are the kind of thing where it's like, yeah, you definitely play this on the one campaign where it's in the frickin' North or South Pole, and all of these abilities are just amazing. Because they are kind of like more generally useful than all the rest of these abilities, but only if you know you're going to be in that climate the whole time. Incredible palette for Toadstool Dragons. You have an amazing sense of taste. You get a +2 circumstance bonus for saving throws against things you ingest. And you get a crit whenever you get a success. That's weird. But, you know, if you're going to play something like Kingmaker and you can be the taste tester for stuff, I guess that's cool if that's what you want to do. Invoke Nightmare for Nightmare Dragons. You reach into a deep well of nightmare fuel and drown a target in a well of horror and despair. You can cast Agonizing Despair once today. That's decent, but it's level 9. It's still decent. Item Mastery for Occult Dragons. This gives you an awesome ability to use Trick Magic Item. You gain Trick Magic Item, but then you also gain a special ability. 1 action to draw out anything you want. And this could significantly break action economy because it doesn't say you can draw something that you have on you instead of in your storage. So you could draw stuff from your backpack, which normally takes 2 actions, and then use as a single action instead of 3. So this is giving you 1 action to do something that normally takes between 2 and 3 actions. That is fantastic. This also allows you to cast 2-action spells on wands you don't even have yet, which nobody else can do. Like, be an occult dragon, get item mastery, and be some sort of rogue or intelligence spellcaster that takes, you know, multiple different casting knowledge feats and just spend all your money on wands. He's like, oh, I've literally have a wand for every occasion and I can pop them out whenever I absolutely need them. That's a really, really good feat. Jester's Trick for Harlequin Dragons. You excel at shell games, mimicry, and other jests and tricks involving misdirection. You can cast Mirror Image once per hour. That's not bad. Mirror Image is a decent spell for pretty much anybody, really. So yeah, I'm going to say that's not bad. It's up against stiff competition, but it's not bad. Join Dreamscape, Dream or Nightmare Dragon. You can enter people's dreams. You can cast a spell once a day. They have to be within 30 feet of you. And you have to sustain it and all this other stuff. It's a super thematic thing, and you could literally make like a whole mini adventure out of just using this on somebody. So I would say avoid it unless you know you are going to be able to put it to good use, because it is super cool. Life of the Party, Master in Society, and Indigo Dragon. This allows you just to get into parties. You can find people that are already going to a party and hook onto them and get in. It's, society stuff. Like, if you're playing a high society type of game where, oh, the villain is holding a party with all the nobles and whatever, and secret stuff's going on. It's like, oh, you need to get in there. It's like, well, you have somebody in your party who has the option for getting you in. Otherwise, not useful. Lignifying Bite for forest dragons. This is just one of those things. When you kill a creature and it's reduced to 0 hit points, you can choose to force the creature to attempt a fortitude save against the higher of your class and spell DC. If it fails, it dies and turns into a tree. Like, it turns into wood and might grow into a tree. Like, all this does is prevent people from raising them after you kill them. This is totally a GM kind of feat, unless you're being a completely evil, sadistic friggin' forest dragon. It's cool and thematic, but, like, I would never choose that. It is rather cool, though. Moon Silver for lunar dragons. Your entire body is imbued with the power of the moon, and so your draconic unarmed attacks have great power over creatures affected by the lunar cycle. Your unarmed attack from your dragon ancestry are treated as silver. This is only good if you're going to be like a diehard or something, or don't use weapons at all. In that case, it's alright. But still not fantastic. Piezo Ink for Amber Dragons once a day. You can make your own ink to make glyphs. Like Glyph of Warding. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but this is... If you're a spellcaster, then cool. You can, like, protect your spell book and other books and whatever, but I don't know. I don't really see much use for that. Raise Wing! Edict Dragon. Your wings are mighty parapets, and you can raise them to protect you from harm. If you spend 1 action to raise a single wing, you gain a +1 circumstance bonus at the beginning of your next turn. If you spend 2 actions to ring both rings, you get a +2 circumstance bonus and reflex saves against area effects until the beginning of your next turn. Like, if you get the Draconic Ravager ability to wing deflect, then you can double that bonus to a +4 AC bonus. But that's taking 2 actions. Like, it's not terrible, but like, offense is definitely the best defense in this game, so I don't know. It's not a terrible ability, though. Sacred Space, Planar, Paradise Dragon. You protect those within non-evil allies, and your infusion gain twice the amount of hit points from resting. You can get a +1 status to saving throws against spells and other magical effects. which doubles against chaotic and evil. It's alright. Not fantastic. Stone Climb, Copper Dragon. You get a climb speed. For stone. This is like a level 1 or maybe level 5 feat. Like, the fact this is level 9 is real bad. Sudden Growth. You can infuse yourself with your burgeoning magical energy to increase your size for a short time. You can cast Enlarge on yourself once per hour. That's not bad. It's not fantastic either, but it's not bad. And once we get into Draconic Ravager, this is going to look real bad. But on its own, just as an ancestry feat, it's not terrible. Getting a second level spell once an hour? Underwater Mastery, Amphibious Ease, and Expert in Athletics. Get a +5 to your swim speed. And Wave Sense, 30 feet. It's basically scent. And your speed goes up based on your athletics. This combines 2 other feats into 1 feat, but you have to be underwater. So it's like combining a 1st level and a 5th level feat as a 9th level feat, but only if you're underwater. So that may or may not be really useful for you. But it's not bad. Woodland Stride, green or forest dragons. Foliage and other plants. Blah, 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 blah. Oh. You ignore difficult terrain caused by plants. That's real bad. Like, difficult terrain is not a big enough issue to waste a 9th level feat on just certain kinds of difficult terrain. Like, if this had some other secondary thing on it, it might be decent, but as is, no, don't take that. Up to 13th level ancestry feats. Slowly moving along here. Astral Sight for Astral Eyes. Your astral eyes are always active. You can see invisibility at all times. Now there we go. That is a good upgrade. That's just good. Banishing Breath. Dragon Breath for Paradise Dragon. You infuse the power of heaven. Your breath can banish summoned creatures with ease. That's vaguely alright. It's so specific, though. If you run into a lot of summons, then that might be useful, but otherwise, meh. Beam of Light for solar dragons. Once per day. Yuck. You transform yourself into a beam of light and move in a straight line across a great distance. You must have line of effect and line of sight to the location, and it must be in a straight line from you, unimpeded by a barrier that would substantially block or disperse light. You transform into light, move the distance, and return to your original form at the new location. Most reactions won't work against you while you're light, because they would not be able to affect light. On a clear day, on a flat plane, due to the curvature of a planet, you can see about 3 miles. So this has a maximum range of 3 miles. Like, that's super cool and stuff, but why would you ever want to just transport yourself 3 miles away? What's your party gonna do? I don't know. Super cool, but pretty much useless. I mean, you could definitely find cool uses for it. And if you're playing with a GM who totally allows you to do solo content, then yeah, that's a pretty cool ability. Capsize. Brine Dragon of large size or larger. You try to capsize an adjacent aquatic vessel. You flip a ship. Like, I don't know. It's cool. It's thematic for them. But, like, you should just be able to do this without the feat, I think. Just because it's so thematic to them. But whatever. It is what it is. It's alright. Celebratory Chair. Indigo Dragon. Once per minute, an ally within 30 feet critically hits a foe. You cheer your ally on, get a +1 status bonus on attack rolls against the foe that your ally critically hit for 2 rounds. If you critically hit, then your ally can cheer and get that same bonus. This is a friggin' awesome ability. If you don't have any other way of getting status bonus to attack rolls, then this is a really cool ability. Like, once a fight, when an ally crits, you can get a +1 for 2 rounds. And then if you crit, your ally can get that bonus. That's pretty good. Channel Scales. Requires some power scales. You channel powerful magic into your scales, increasing their power further as your scales thicken. Item bonus increases to +3. Dex cap changes to +2. Now, see, this basically makes it so that your spellcaster using your unarmed proficiency is wearing medium armor. But this is level 13. How are you, as a cloth caster, going to wait until level 13 just having a +2 dex mod? You're going to die. You're not going to live that long to get any use out of this. So, I think this is trash. It enables a build that uses less dex, but not until later levels. So how do you get through the earlier levels? Just don't work. Cloud Walk. Cloud dragons are silver dragons. They walk on clouds. Everybody knows silver dragons walk on clouds. It's cool. A little bit high level for what that does, but that's still cool. Corona of Power. Draconic heritage with an associated damage type that deals energy damage, mental damage, or poison damage once per day. You surround yourself with Corona of energy, poison, or mental damage for 1 minute. Any creature that touches you or damages you with an unarmed attack or melee weapon without the reach trait takes 3d6 damage. That doesn't scale, so this is a pretty crap ability. Once a day. Yeah. Maybe pick it up at 13 and then retrain it after a couple levels, because 3d6 is going to quickly become a nothing burger. Yeah. Yeah. Touches you or damages you. So they have, well, I read that as they have to damage you with a weapon. So I was thinking this would be good on a champion, because even if they don't damage you, or a barbarian if you have damage resist, but nope, it has to do damage to you. Because they could hit you, you could block it and take no damage and still damage them, but nope, that's not how this works. So this is pretty crap. This is real bad. Corrupt Water. Black Dragon Heritage once per day. You permanently befoul 10 cubic feet of water within 90 feet. Like, the once a day sucks for this, but it's thematic. You get it way too late, but it's all right. I mean, if you really want to think about it, you're corrupting the water. Just take a dump in somebody's water source. That it achieves the same thing. Sorry, but that's kind of all that does, really. Countless chances. You have to have second chance. Most people it just allows you to do that. What, every hour? Yep. So that's all right. Like things that turn once a day abilities into once an hour abilities. Those are pretty cool. It sucks to have to use 2 feats on it, but that's where we are. Damnation Flames, Dragon Breath, Infernal, non-good alignment. It's more Hellfire with your breath weapon. Prevents them from being raised after you kill them. It's pretty terrible. Unless you're playing in an evil campaign and being really evil. Dazzling Presence. You surround yourself with an energy aura that dazzles the senses of those nearby. For 1 minute, you gain a Dazzling Presence aura 20 foot, which isn't fantastic. Enemies must attempt will save versus your DC or get dazzled for round, dazzled for minute, or dazzled for a minute and blinded for a round. It's all right. It's not that bad. Solar Dragon just being shiny. That's all right. Desert Thirst for blue dragons. This is the same as the black dragons one, only actually a hell of a lot more useful because you can create or destroy 10 cubic feet of water. Like, if you want to be a desert tyrant, pick this up. You just take people's water away from them or give them water. Like, you control the water, you control the life. Super cool ability. Desert Wind. Brass Dragon once per hour. You call upon a desert wind to blast your foes and potentially blow sand in their eyes. The wind howls 60-foot cone until the start of your next turn. And, only 1 round. That sort of sucks. Large or smaller creatures in the air must attempt fortitude save against the higher of a class or spell DC. The success is they can't move against the wind. Failures, they can't move against the wind. They're also knocked prone, and if they were flying, they are pushed back 30 feet and take 10d6 bludgeoning damage. That's not terrible. Crit failure as failure, except you're never going to get this effect because, well, that's the thing. Like, this game is designed so that you're never going to get a critical failure unless they roll a 1. Or maybe a 2 at the best. So don't look at the crit failure. It's not going to happen. Marshals will get critical hits. Spellcasters will not. That's basically how everything lines up. So that's an alright ability. Once per hour, you can slam some flying stuff with wind and knock them the frig down. And do a modest amount of damage. It's alright. Fly. You can fly. Empowered mass. You focused on your growing the magic growing your body and strengthening the bones and body structure to handle the increased size. You permanently gain enlarge, becoming large, increasing your reach by 10 feet, becoming clumsy 1, and gaining a +2 status bonus to dex. You basically get the enlarge spell on you all the time, which is not great, but it's not terrible. It's all right. Entomb. Crypt Dragon. Once per hour, you bring forth a crypt of earth to entomb a large or smaller foe on the ground within 30 feet, surrounding it entirely and blocking it off from other creatures. The crypt has AC 5 hardness, 10 and 40 hit points, which is pretty terrible at that level. It's immune to critical hits and precision damage. Disintegrate destroys the crypt instantly. It also gets a save. Critical success means it's not affected. Success is the foe dodges the center, so the crypt has only 10 hit points instead of 40. Wow, that's bad. That's a really bad ability. They should not get a save. You should just use this and they're in it. I mean, it is once an hour, so that might be a little bit too good, but you're spending 2 actions, probably getting a success, so all something has to do is 20 damage at level 13, and it destroys it. That's fairly simple. I mean, worst case scenario is you spend 2 actions to make the enemy spend 2 actions. Like, this is only a good ability against, like, spellcasters or really weak, low damage enemies, which there aren't really a lot of. So whatever. Ethereal Horde. You put your horde on the ethereal plane. Yeah, that's cool. Fairy Ring Transport for Toadstool Dragons. You can teleport between fairy rings. You have to find them first, and your GM has to understand what they are and where they are, but, you know, that's somewhere between not very useful and frickin' broken as hell. Depending on how you deal with fairy rings, if, you know, every dense forest has a fairy ring in it, then yeah, congratulations. You can basically cast Tree Walk whenever the frig you want. It's awesome. Flexible breath, excuse me. For Tumult Dragons, your chaotic nature allows you to swap your breath weapons. You can choose whatever kind of breath you want. You can change it between a line and a cone. Whenever you want. Why would you ever want to use a line when you have a cone? Who knows? If you want to hit a single target, then you don't, because breath weapons don't do enough damage to justify being used against single targets. Frightful Presence. Here we go. Once a day, you surround yourself with power that terrifies any who dare approach you. For 1 minute, everything within 20 feet of you has to make a will save. Crit is usual. Success, creature's frightened 1. Failure is frightened 2. Crit failure is frightened 4. Never gonna get that, though. That's, it's not a good ability. Alright? Straight off, it's not a good ability. They become immune to it after 1 save. It's not great. But we'll see later how it gets great. Hardened Scales. Once a day, you can cast Stone Skin on yourself, basically. It's not fantastic for that level. I mean, it's good, but it's not fantastic. Lingua Franca. Edict Dragon. You can speak and understand all languages. Really high level for this ability, but if you can make use of it, kick some ass with it. Nauseating Presence. Void Dragon. Once a minute, once a day. And they have to make a will save, which is pretty decent. A lot of things have low will. The taint of the void corrupts those in your presence, weakening them against sickness while within the owner. -2 penalty to saving throws against diseases. Failure does sickened 1, crit does sickened 2. That's kind of mediocre. Kind of really mediocre. I mean, unless you have some good ways of doing sickness and diseases on your own, which void dragons do. Their breath weapon is kind of like that. But you really got to know how to make use of this. Otherwise, it's not going to be useful to you. More so than that statement would be on its face. Planner Artist. Planner and Infusion Havoc Dragon. You can bring objects to life and have your planner infusion look cool however you want it. But the item doesn't actually do anything. You can only create one item. That's my big problem with this. It's all utility. It's all thematic. There's no crunch here whatsoever. This doesn't actually do anything. You can make an object while within your planner infusion that's a decoration. So in that way, it's a useless ability, but it is still pretty cool though. Reflective Scales. You concentrate energy into your scales, protecting yourself and storing power. You can cast Reflective Scales once an hour, which is mediocre. Reflective Scales isn't really that great a spell, even heightened on its own, so that's not great. Rising Nightmare. You have to have Invoke Nightmare. You can use the Raise Nightmare reaction. Once a day, when you kill something, you transform a foe's death into a walking nightmare for one of that foe's allies. You cast Agonizing Despair. It's mediocre. It boosts Invoke Nightmare to once an hour instead of once a day, which is pretty cool, and gives you something extra. So, I mean, it's not abysmal. It's alright. I do like that Nightmare Dragons happen to be, like, they get Intimidate bonuses innately. That's awesome. So you can really double down on that. Even as a caster who normally can't do that kind of stuff very well. It's great. Shape Ice as a white dragon. Once an hour, you can reshape ice. I mean, you know, it's a white dragon ability. If you're playing a white dragon, you're going to be in the snow, it's going to be a good ability. It's kind of the conclusion we can gain there. Slowing Presence for time dragons. You make a time dilation aura. Success. The creature's dulled reaction times throw off its balance for a brief moment, causing it to become Clumsy 1 for a round. Failure is Clumsy 1 and Slowed 1 for a round. Oof, that's not good. That's not fantastic. Soul Drinker from Apocalypse Dragons. When you have a creature in your grasp and at your mercy, you can sip and drink from their soul. If they are 2 levels lower than you, you gain 10 temporary hit points and a +1 status to attack and damage for a minute. It's alright. It's another one of those, hey, if I kill you, you can't come back kind of things, but with actual use to it. But you gotta grab them, and then I guess it's automatic because it doesn't say that it's an action or anything. So yeah, when you grab something that's at least 2 levels lower than you, you get +1 to attack and damage for a minute. That's all right. A little bit higher level for it, but whatever. And then the rider of things you kill can't come back, but that's kind of useless. Stupefying presence. Everybody's got to have a presence. Lunar Dragon. So theirs does Stupefied, which is only really good against casters sometimes. But alrighty. Summon Draconic Servitor. 5th level Summon Dragon. Summons suck, so this is garbage. Absolute useless. And it's also like you're summoning a slave. Just like there's a lot of bad to look into that feat. So we're just going right along. Trackless Step for green dragons. You don't need to. It's trash. You don't leave tracks and stuff. You get cover tracks exploration. It's way too high level for what that does. Warping Presence. Vortex Dragons. Once per day, of course. This one does difficult terrain. 20 feet of difficult terrain around you if they fail their save. That's not fantastic, but not abysmal, I guess. Water Mastery for bronze dragons. Once an hour. You can create waves and currents. You can do all of the, water stuff. And you can also buff allies. Plus 30-foot status bonus to swim. That's pretty awesome. So watery stuff. It's cool. Alien Presence. You have to have Dazzling Presence, this takes all of the weird presences that aren't frightful presence and makes it so you can use them once an hour instead of once a day. This is our first level 17 feat. That makes all of those presences decent. Pretty good. Instead of the not good that they are normally. Camouflage. Green Dragon. Camouflage. Camouflage is a level 10 ranger ability that quickly becomes abso-friggin-lutely useless. So getting this at level 17 is trash. Like, if you want a character that's going to be good at camouflage, then you can do that. This is not how to do that. This is a throwaway ribbon ability by level 17. Cloud Form. You turn into a cloud. You can't cast spells or activate items or use potions or do anything except move and at your normal speed. And stuff can still beat the crap out of you. It's bad. It's just bad. Draining Blight. Forest Dragon once a day. This allows you to cast what's that spell? Well, I guess not. This only has a 30-foot emanation. But you do leech water and you gain health. So it's mediocre. Exodus of Dreams. For dream dragons that have joined Dreamscape, you can join Dreamscapes far more often. Gives you dream stuff. Cool dream stuff, but it's still, dream stuff. If you're going on a dream adventure, then you definitely want to be a dream dragon. It's cool. Expanded Resistance. You gain resistance 5 to everything. All of the everything that's not physical. That's pretty good. It's not fantastic because you can do all of that with items, but, whatever. It's all right. Hyper-focus speed. Once a day. You've learned how to fly super fast if all you're doing is flying. This tries to mimic the fact that regular dragons have 120-foot fly speed, but you can only get it at level 17, and it's eh. There should be another way to get this at like lower levels or some other way, because as a level 17 feat, this is not good enough. But I want it. I want it. Magma 2. Magma Dragon. Once a day. You can spit a molten boulder at a target. 8d6 fire damage and 3d12 bludgeoning. It's not a lot of damage for a once a day ability. And it can harden on stuff and sort of be a pain. Not a good ability. Mass Laughter. Copper Dragons. Once a day. You tell the best joke ever. Everyone around you starts laughing. It's hideous laughter that you can sustain for a minute. And it's a 30-foot AoE instead of a single target. That's way too high in level to be such a weak thing. But it's still pretty good. Like, if that's something you want to do, it definitely does that thing. And is useful. Meditative Restoration for Bliss Dragons. You meditate on Nirvana. You and all allies within 10 feet regain 7d8 hit points and can choose to either reduce the... it's alright. Like, it's a big burst heal, but you have to be within 10 feet. And it has a chance to cure a whole bunch of different stuff. It's alright, but not fantastic. Mirage for blue dragons. You can cast Project Image. And then use your breath weapon from it. That's mediocre. That's alright. Perfected Flight. Sky Dragon with all this stuff. You gain Assurance in Acrobatics, and if you have the Practiced Flight feat, your circumstance bonus and maneuvers increases 2+3. And you can hover. That's where it is. I was looking for that ability. You can hover without spending actions. That is crazy awesome. Because otherwise, you have to spend an action whenever you're in the air to continue flying or fall and smash your face open. So that's really cool. It's too bad it's level 17, but that is a lot of cool stuff. Rapturous Revel. Havoc Dragon or Indigo Dragon. This is everybody suddenly be happy. Gives a bunch of cool buffs. That nice +4 circumstance. It's kind of a cool, when things aren't going well, it's like, boom, I want to buff everybody. It's a pretty good ability. Reoccurring Fear. You get to use Frightful Presence once per hour. Ace. This is Ace. Frightful Presence is good when you can use it often. It's great. Redemption. Paradise Dragon. Let us see. Once per week, you can cast 6th, 7th, or 8th level Raise Dead as an innate divine spell. Holy crap. At 19th level, you can also choose to cast 9th level Raise Dead. The dead creature can choose whether... Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Problem. None of those spells actually do what you think they do. Raise Dead and... yeah, that's just Raise Dead. Raise Dead brings somebody back temporarily, I believe. You have to do rituals to actually bring somebody back permanently, which sucks. Or maybe that's the divine spell, and the divine spell is different, but all the primal ones are just temporary resurrections, which I hate. Like, casting a 10th level spell to bring somebody back for a couple rounds sucks. Ride the Breath. This is awesome. This is super cool ability, does pretty decent damage, and moves you. Like, what's not to love about that? You make a line breath 120 feet, you move 120 feet, and do that damage. That's awesome. Scorched Earth, Underworld, once a day, and you are touching the ground. That is a weird preemptive thing, but it's just because you burn the ground. Damage is mediocre. Once a day sucks. The damage scales up, so I mean, it goes from being bad to staying at bad instead of moving into useless territory, but it's still not very good. It's a 60-foot radius. Like, that's the only upside to it. Is it's an actually fairly large explosion. Sepulture makes Entomb better. Entomb sucked, so this actually makes it not suck quite so hard. Spell turning scales. You can counteract once a day. That's not terrible, but it's not fantastic. Counteracting is really rough. But since you don't have to meet some of the requirements for it, it's decent. Stabilize mass. You get rid of the clumsy for being large. It's not good. There's other ways to do so much better, so it's not good. Starflight. Lunar, solar, time, void, or vortex dragon. You can fly through goddamn space. Through goddamn space. That's the best ability in the game right there. You can fly through freaking space. Serves no use. You can bring people with you, so you can literally start playing Starfinder in your Pathfinder 2 game. Yes. Awesome. Stupid, but awesome. Transforming breath. You have to be a tumult dragon once a day. You can... Is this the one that does... Oh, it does Baleful Polymorph when you use your Dragon Breath on something. Kind of garbage. And that is the end of our list of dragon ancestry powers. Some good stuff here, some not so good stuff here, but they're fantastic building blocks to build, fully fleshed out, cool abilities. And so, yeah, go and have fun with all this stuff. It's fantastic stuff.